I had one more guy who I wanted to bring up who really stood out this tournament to me. And if Harper was on the podcast right now, he would really probably appreciate me bringing this player up. Actually, he probably would have brought this player up already. So it has to be Jiri Kulich. He was the Czechia forward, one of their best players, if not their best. I guess Jan Mysak, it's pretty hard to argue that he wasn't their best player. But he was another guy who was drafted this year, 28th overall, okay, by Buffalo in the first round. So another young guy, he's just 18. He had 7 points in 7 games, and every time he was on the ice, I noticed that he was making something happen. Like we talk about, maybe Sweden not being able to get to the bronze medal game without having a guy like Emil Andre or Jesper Wallstedt. Well, if the Czechs didn't have Jiri Kulich, there's not a chance they're getting past USA, because Kulich was the guy who was set up on the power play as their shooter. He was, the guy who was driving the offense, him and Mysak. Like every time he was on the ice, I noticed him, which is, shocking and not. It's shocking because he's so young. He was drafted this year and he wasn't a high pick. Like he was, relatively speaking, he was a 28th overall pick. So you expect guys who are this young to kind of stand out if they're, a top 10 pick or a top 5 pick if they're playing type thing. But Kulich wasn't. He was a late first rounder. There were some doubts about, his strength and size and everything. But man, he can shoot the puck and he can make great passes as well. That's not really his bag. I think he's more of a shooter. And the speed, the top end speed really stood out to me as well. So him standing out was a bit shocking, like I said, because he was a bit younger, but also not that shocking because he played on Czechia, who didn't have a ton of weapons, him and Mysak. But I just thought every time he was on the ice, he was one of the best players.
Yeah, what I'll say about Kulich is watching Czechia play, they played with size and speed and were, relatively speaking, obviously these are all talented hockey players, but relatively speaking to the rest of the tournament, seemed a bit sloppy. Like there wasn't that top end skill level at all times. Well, there was when he was playing. When he was on the ice, it was expected that they're going to play with skill and they're going to move the puck well. And really, it was those two that you mentioned at the top of this part, him and Mysak, like those two stood out as talented, skillful players on this team. A team that looked good. I won't deny that. They were a good team. They played well together, but it's not the smooth hockey that you saw from obviously Canada, Sweden, Finland, USA, and Switzerland honestly plays that smooth hockey. It wasn't the chippiness like I saw in Czechia's games, but the game was certainly different with Kulich on the ice.
Yeah, 100%. And I just loved watching him. He made a difference, and I believe he got the empty netter as well against the States to eliminate them. So